What's going on, everybody? We're back. Thee CrazyFaceUno Podcast. And we've got the one, the only, one of my favorite human beings, Katie Zeuli.
What's up?
She's back on the podcast. Katie, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back.
Thanks so much for being here.
I feel very special for being the first number 2.
You are. You are the first number 2. The only number 2 at this point in time. Yes. That was awesome. That was really impressive.
Thank you. It's my Chewbacca noise. Or purr, depending on which way you want to swing.
Did you hear that Chewbacca, the character, the guy who played Chewbacca, he passed away?
I did.
A couple months ago.
I did. I know. The poor Star Wars cast is fading.
Fallen. Yeah, but I mean...
Fallen. Wow, how very dark side of you.
Well...
puns.
Hey! Man,
I love that meme when they shoot out the pews and
yeah. Pew, pew, pew. It sounds so puny. I'm being punny now.
Love it. Love it.
We've been talking for a while, so everybody that's listening right now, for your information, that is also known as an FYI. Oh! We're having fun this morning. Holy cow. The YouTube channel is hosting the videos. And so you can go check that out. There is a ton of bonus material, especially from this podcast. Right, YouTube?
I felt really cute this morning until you put me on camera.
I think you're great. Look at you. Everybody's going to think so. Hey, comment
I'm wearing an extra large shirt, and I'm not an extra large person. What up?
Comment in the YouTube channel. Comment below if you're checking that out. And give Katie some positive affirmation on her looks today.
You
she
guys
needs
are
it.
Great.
Yep.
She
Do it.
Needs it. Because that counted as 1. Check.
Check.
Just kidding. No, he's been very kind.
We've been talking about a few different things. One we're going to get into a little bit later, but the other you mentioned, and listen, everybody that's listening, I feel like most people aren't listening for the first time, but there's definitely people that are I track the numbers every day. I'm obsessed with that kind of stuff. And, I have no doubt that there's probably new listeners every day, or they start off and listen to at least the first little bit. And, you made a good point that maybe I should every podcast kind of explain CrazyFaceUno and what this podcast is about and what the idea behind CrazyFaceUno is. Or
yeah.
A little thing. So, the podcast I feel like is a little bit different because I just want it to be free flowing. Mm-hmm. I want it to I want to bring in people that I know, people that are my friends. Eventually I would love to have more established people and mix that into the podcast. As far as maybe a little more popular or more known people. Just I think that'd be interesting. I love picking apart the brains of those people that have kind of are grinding and hustling and making a name for themselves or whatever.
Yeah.
Not there yet. I'm also in my basement with blankets on the walls. A conversation I've had with my wife, how do I take this to the next level? I have blankets on the walls.
That's not a dungeon.
Yeah.
It's actually fine. It's pretty comfy.
It's pretty cool when you're in here. You don't really notice it, but it's also in my house. It's just a conscious thing that I have, right? Of there's people respectable people that I would want to have on the podcast, and to be a respectable person to come into my house, walk down my, dusty, hairy, dog hair basement
that's
stairs.
Fixable. It's called a broom.
Yeah, obviously, but it's also not the most elaborate, which it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. Amy Schumer's book was recorded in her home studio.
Really?
I didn't mean Amy Schumer. I meant Amy Poehler.
Well, you're
but
close.
Still, they both are Amy's. I'm just saying, great things can come out of small spaces.
But I guess I say all that because we are adapting, growing, learning, changing, doing things every day. I'm constantly thinking about how I can improve and how I can get better. We had a conversation before we even got started on videoing or recording here about how I realize that sometimes I've listened to all my podcasts that I've put up, and I ramble sometimes, and I have these little snippets that are in my head that aren't necessarily clear to the listener. Mm-hmm. and they make more sense in my head than they do when they come out of my mouth. And I'm also an external processor, so I process things as I talk sometimes, which is great for me, but it's not really the most maybe fantastic thing to listen to. So not that it sounds bad, or not that you're not enjoying it, not that people aren't, whatever, but I'm a self-improver. Like, I want to improve and I want to continue to get better. I'm also have a few like perfectionistic qualities to myself that I'm like, why'd I say that? You know, like.
Right. But what I was more coming from is like, I had a friend who listened to the one I was on.
Yeah.
And that was the first time her introduction, and she
Sure.
was like,
What is Crazy FaceUno?
she was like, wait, what is this? Like, what am I listening to? And it wasn't until a little bit later that she was like, oh, I get it. And I was like, I want the people who are going to come back, you know, like once you're famous and successful and I'm on for the 10 millionth time.
Yes.
No. To come back to like these early episodes and like still understand what you're all about.
Absolutely. So, Crazy FaceUno is the mission statement is I want to inspire others to do good and make a difference in our local and global community. That is our mission statement. So, if you're listening, go check out our website, crazyfaceuno.com. There's more on there. You can kind of just, all the content's on there. So, you know, I've got a link to the SoundCloud, like, podcast. You can listen to it through the app. You can listen to it through the website. You can listen to it, whatever you want to do with that. You can also go to, the podcast is on Spotify. It's on the podcast app, which is like Google Play's version of podcasts. It's on the iTunes. It's on Stitcher. It's on Radio something, which is also one that I'm going to start promoting because I actually get paid.
Sweet.
It's like 2 cents a listen, but
whatever.
It's more than I get paid through any of the other ones. So I would love if you guys are interested. I will figure that out and I'll post it on the social media things.
He also has all the social media. Follow on Insta.
Yeah. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Those are the 3 main ones. And then obviously YouTube. We mentioned that already. So
I feel like I should tweet more. That's not it. Like everyone's like, oh, Twitter this, Twitter that.
Twitter's awesome. It really is pretty cool. Tweet. But, and Twitter, so because I don't have the follow, like I only have like maybe 10 followers on Instagram or on Twitter. Instagram and Facebook are obviously like my 2 bigger ones that people are like kind of following along with this project and this adventure. But Twitter, I feel like can be where it's not. It doesn't have to be. All right. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like I just said like words that don't mean anything, but I don't know where I'm going with that and I want to go back. So anyway, Facebook and Instagram, I'm very cognizant of not overloading you with content, right? Like I want to post maybe once, maybe twice a day. Like I don't really want to like just, like I don't want to overwhelm you. I want you to kind of like be...
You want to be reminded.
Yeah, reminded, like be present. But I don't want to overwhelm you. Like you can check it out on your own. You're going to see it. It's going to come up, like whatever. But I feel like Twitter is a little bit different where you can be more fluid. Like you can just have a thought. Like I can have a thought throughout the day and be like, oh, I'm going to go share that on Twitter. Like here's a way you can do good. But because it's not something, which I think this is maybe just wrong on my part in some ways, but because it's not the place that I have the most following, it's not something I use a lot.
Sure. Right
at the moment, but such is life. Figuring it out as I go. But yeah, so Crazy FaceUno is, you know, like I said, it's inspiring others to do good and make a difference. And I wanted to put like local and global in there because I think that, you know, working at the nonprofit that we did, here's my plug for Invisible Children, one in every podcast, I swear. But we talked about this a lot, you know, like when people would ask us questions when we were on the road, they'd be like, well, what about like the homeless population and like our area? What about the things that are the issues that I care about here? And one of our lines and one of the things that I mean, honestly, like I truly believed it. I truly cared about that is that, yeah, absolutely. Like if that's what you care about, then go take care of that issue, right?
Yeah.
We're giving you an avenue to this is an issue we care about, right? This is the Central Africa, the LRA, and the things that are going on there. That was something that we really were involved in and obviously very much cared about. We gave up a lot of our time and our energy to work there and to do that. And So like, yeah, if you want to get involved, that's great. If you don't, like, that's okay too. Like, we weren't like pushing or pressuring people. Like,
right. It was more of just break outside your four walls. Like, if you want to steal our fundraising efforts, it's not even steal. You want to have our fundraising efforts, then like more power to you.
Exactly.
My favorite thing about the fundraising efforts that I have definitely used for other things was like change for change. Everybody has change in their pockets.
Yeah.
And like, it's all about, and so yeah, the reason I wanted you to re-explain CrazyFaceUno, because I feel like it's on that same vein of like, this is the avenue I'm taking to do good, and even these conversations do good. Like, they could inspire someone to like, I'm thinking about this, I didn't think about it this way, and now I can like reapply this to other aspects of my life.
Exactly. And I think that's what I really want the podcast to be. I don't want it to have, you know, obviously we talk about the different things of like, why are, you know, I've had a lot of people on from the school that I worked at, and obviously I want to have those people on. There's an inspiration to why did you get into this field? It's a very unique field. It's a very special thing. And like, that's something I've asked people about, and I'm interested in that. But I'm also I think it's just interesting to hear different perspectives from other people. And I've talked about this a few times on the podcast as well, as the more we can talk and the more we can communicate about tough and difficult and complex issues, the more we can understand them, the more we understand each other, even if we have differing like views on those things. And I just think it's important to talk about that. Whether we disagree or we agree, it doesn't matter. I don't want to have a fight with you. I just want to have a conversation. I want to be able to talk about it. My brain operates in the way that, unfortunately, sometimes I see both sides of the spectrum, you know? And I want to look at a negative thing and I'm be like, okay, well, how can I find the positive out of this? Like, what are the good things that what are they trying to tell me? What are they trying to do? Right?
Seems great.
Right. And positive things, like, how can I pick it apart? How can I dissect it? How can I be like, this is a way that you can do better? It's the simple things. Like, I have Roku, and Dana and I were using Roku. We were trying to find, it's called Red Table Talk. There is
with
Will Smith.
His wife.
Yes, Jada. And Will Smith and his daughter Willow. Oh my gosh, have you listened to it?
I've heard. I'm not gonna lie. I got really sucked into the world, and I listened to the Jordan whatever one.
Okay.
But
so the part 2, I haven't listened to the first one.
And they talk about real things, and they're cool people.
Dana and I took that 24-minute video that they had, the part 2, and we probably stretched that out to at least 2 hours. And just like we'd pause it and like talk about that. If you are in a relationship out there, maybe I'll post it. Maybe I'll like have a link somewhere in this conversation afterwards, because I think it is a very real conversation that I think people need to have, and I think that they have a really interesting perspective on relationship.
Is this the one about Will and Jaden, or which one is it?
It's about? Will and Jaden, and basically their relationship, and kind of explaining a little bit about, I mean, he addresses like their relationship in the sense that she's kind of started to stand up for herself and like push back, and like Will's ego and like all these different things, and
cool.
They just like dissect it and like kind of where they're at now, and fascinating. Right? Like, it was legitimately fascinating, and just good life lessons and things like I needed to hear, right? Like, it was a slap in the face for me in a couple of places, and I was like, whoa, like, I resonate with that a lot. And I love also, this is a whole nother thing, but it's a conversation, I guess, that Dana and I have had, and because we've listened to a few things, like we watched the Robin Williams documentary, and not that we like completely subscribe to exactly what they're saying, but like it's an interesting concept to like think about, right? This is going down a whole other rabbit hole than where we were going, but however, I think it's important. One of Will Smith's wives, she mentioned the thing like, yeah, he loves women and he like does this thing and he like goes and does, but at the end of the day, I just want him to come home. You know, like we're a partner, we're like a partnership. And Jada and like Will Smith talked about that too, and of like, man, like, go be happy. I just want you to be happy. And when you are happy, like, come back. That's what I want, you know? And, like, not saying, like, go and do whatever the heck you want, you know? Yeah. But at the same time,
there has to be respect in the relationship as well.
Yeah. It's just an interesting concept of, like, man, being partners. And she mentioned, you know, like, just a variety of different things. Like, it's outside the box, but I love their perspective, and I love the way they talk about it, and I love the way they dissect it. I thought it was really interesting. Going back to my original topic, Roku, we were on there, we were searching for it on YouTube, and I was like, oh, this is my classic thing. I'm like, oh, this is annoying. Like, all I want to do is, like, why is the back arrow up here and the, like, other buttons are, like, the space arrows down here? It's like, it's just not a good place to put it. I just dissect things, and I, like, look at things differently, and I'm like, this isn't efficient. Yeah, I know. Here we are, rambling, going for it. But we'll be done with that conversation.
I mean, the relationship stuff is super interesting. And, I mean, yes, it can be. The thing about, like, the little I know about Red Table Talks is, like, they're really open. And so I guess this is coming back to what, so, like, just before we started recording, I was telling Shane I saw this, what appeared to be a homeless man, but to be honest, I can't tell at this point. There's just this guy standing on the corner of Lexington, and he had a big yellow sign that with a smiley face and said smile, and he had a huge sombrero full of, like, stuff. Just stuff. And, like, he made me laugh. And unfortunately, I'm not one of those people who carry around cash ever. Like, in the technology world, like, my card is connected to my phone, and so why do I need anything else? Like, I carry around my ID.
Do you have Venmo?
Can I Venmo you?
Insensitive, but whatever.
But no, for sure. So we were just talking about that, and then I started just talking more about how I feel really ignorant, being so connected to, like, the nonprofit world, to the social justice world, which we talked a lot about on where I was before, but I feel like there's conversations that I'm missing out on because I'm not educated, and then we're also at this point in our world where people are so ready to be upset and so ready to get defensive that I'm sitting here as this young white female being like, I just want to be educated.
Yeah,
so
I just want to learn more. I just want to understand. I want to be like...
And it's frustrating times because I'm like, who am I supposed to talk to? Like, how am I supposed to get these answers if you won't talk to me?
Right.
And so I was telling Shane again about this woman I saw outside of Target holding a sign that said, like, I've lost my job.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, please help.
Holding a child, you said? I think?
Yeah, holding her daughter. And literally next to her is a sign that says, we're hiring, starting at $13 an hour.
Yeah.
And I want to know what's the difference between her sitting there or going inside and being like, hi, can I have an interview?
Yeah. And I had mentioned, and I kind of just a little bit, like, I have a little understanding of this, but I'm honestly a little ignorant in this topic as well, but it's just so complex. And all these issues are so complex. I've had this conversation with, like, just having a conversation and talking with, we talked about it with Timmy Harris on the podcast from a while back there. But, it's complex. And one of the things I mentioned is, like, I know that sometimes it's like, okay, well, you have a daughter. To look at this specific lady, like, you have a daughter. Anybody out there with kids, you understand how expensive childcare is. You understand how expensive those things are. I know there are government programs for that. I don't understand any of that. I don't know how that works exactly. So, there could be elements of what I am about to say that aren't completely, like, complete, Yeah. But I'm just kind of spitting out what I know or understand. So when you have daycare, you have to think about. So you get a job. I'm assuming that she's probably on some government program that's allowing her, like, some sort of unemployment or some sort of, like, financial gain from that, whether that's Social Security or whatever that might be. So sometimes it's the fact that, well, I can get a job, but it means that I can't take care of my child, so I have to find daycare, or, like, I have to find someone to watch this person, my child, and then the gain is actually less than if I just watched my child and took the money.
Yeah.
And then if I can get a few spare bucks and I can get a few extra dollars here, then this helps me along the way, And it's just complex. It's not a simple thing.
Absolutely.
And so those are the things when, it's the age-old, like, long conversation about, well, just get a job and just work hard. And I believe that too, right? There is an element of that where I'm like, man, like, how hard are you trying? And that's, like, the human part of, I think, all of us. I think we all kind of had that subconscious thing, even if you're the most, like, caring, empathetic person for the people that are hurting and struggling and going through these different struggles. But it's hard. It's just not that simple.
Right.
If it was that simple, this is the exact comment I made on Timmy Harris's podcast. If it was that simple, we wouldn't be talking about it.
That's true.
Like, it would just be gone. Like, it's a complex thing. But yeah, I think it's important to like have those conversations and just like be vulnerable, be honest, like, hey, like, this is what I see. Help me understand.
Right, which is where I'm coming from.
Right, exactly.
So, like, even this, like, 30 seconds of conversation, makes me be like, okay, like, this is how I can look at it differently. And I just feel in our world today, there are so many, there's so many things, like, with Pride being recently, like, there's certain conversations, like, I have friends on all parts of the spectrum.
Yep.
And, like, that's what I believe. I really believe it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
And which is like makes it so much easier to wrap your mind around, so much easier to like have those conversations. But I also have things that I have questions about that I know I don't have people in my life to answer them.
Yeah.
And so if I were to put onto Twitter like the questions I have, I would get attacked.
Right.
But it's not coming out of ignorance. It's coming out of I want to be educated. I want to know more.
Yeah.
And like
it's a hunger, a thirst for that knowledge.
Exactly. I get really frustrated because there's communities throughout all throughout the world that you want to have these conversations with, but if no one's willing to have the conversation back, how are we supposed to move forward?
I 100% agree.
I get so frustrated.
I am right there, right next to you in that whole like frustration part. And I do have I legitimately have an opinion about everything, or I will formulate an opinion about something, or like where I'm at, and I think everybody does too. We talked with Todd when we kind of highlighted Pride Month, and we're recording this still within Pride Month. Well, no, this is July now. Holy cow! But yeah, with Pride Month being just last month, and it's just interesting. Like, I asked some of the same questions of like with pronouns and some of those things. Like, I've really evolved with my like thought process with the LGBTQ plus community over the last couple of years. I mean, it started off with literally like we're talking about ignorance. Like, I just don't understand. Like, I had trouble with, well, this is just how I'm born. I had trouble with that.
It doesn't mean you're against it.
No, I don't understand it.
Yeah, since I'm not personally going through it, like I can't think that way. But that doesn't mean you're against it. Then that's why I think where the draw is, and that's sorry, continue. But like that's where I'm just like, no, like let me in, like let me know.
Yeah, and so like that was one of the. It's a question that I continue to ask. Like, how do we have these conversations? How do we communicate with one another in these like difficult things? Alex Buckley, he was on, and he has his two brothers are on the autism spectrum, and they like that conversation that we had. Like, his mom obviously has these two sons, and she was snapped at by someone that also had a child with a disability, and when she like was looking at their child and was basically told like why are you staring, or like something along those lines. And it's those conversations like that we don't understand where people are coming from, and if we don't have the conversations, then how do we know? But then how do you engage with somebody like that? How I asked Alex, I was like, well, you've got family. Like, I work in special education as well, but I still have trouble when I go out into public and I see someone that is clearly on the autism spectrum or clearly has a disability, where I'm like, sometimes it's the person that they're with, or their caregiver, or the person that is helping them out feels more uncomfortable than the person maybe that's in that situation, or has the disability. And it's like, how do I engage with that person? How do I, it's simple on paper just to say like, hey, hi, how are you? Yeah. But like, everybody questions, even coming from that world, like, you question the motives, like, right? And like, well, that's not the experience I've had. I haven't had a positive experience, or people want to look, and people are curious, and we want to understand, but like, how do we have these conversations?
Right.
And I don't have an answer. I think we just have to be like gracious and try. And when that doesn't go our way, I think we also have to be gracious and be like, I'm sorry, and apologize and move forward and try it again.
That's true. I guess I think about it as like, I took this great class in college, and it was a lot about, it had to do with, essentially this class was about the start of racism and why it happened and how it happened and like how our world has been affected from it. And I'm lucky to say there was like, it was a very diverse class. Granted, there's only 10 people, but within it, like almost no one was exactly the same ethnicity.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had these conversations and like it came from a safe place. Essentially, it was supposed to come from a safe place, but there was still...
Quickly turns.
There was still stuff... Exactly. There was still stuff within it. And on one hand, like we went around the room, introduced ourselves, and I told what my like major was and what I wanted to do. And a girl, a different ethnicity than me, said, "Oh, what is that, a wife degree?" And I like just stared at her like... Yeah. What? And the rest of the class came to my defense.
Right.
And I was like, these are like the type of things. So like, I didn't have to apologize for something I believed in. I had a community to back me up to like have the conversation. And by the end of the conversation, everyone became on the same page.
Right.
And like that started off as an angry situation, but it like quickly became oh, I see. Like I got it. And she came from like, I actually don't know where she was coming from. Like she kept calling herself an educator, and I was like, if this is how you're going to react about people's passions, like, maybe we need to have other conversations, which is also super defensive on my end. I'm very aware of it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, to have these...
Just an open dialogue.
Exactly.
And I think that open dialogue is really important. It's just really difficult to get into. And that's what I love about having this platform with the podcast, to be able to talk about these things. And I think that is a way to do good and to make a difference, because I think, you know, I mentioned on Timmy's podcast, I keep going back to that one because we had a little bit of a discussion, but that I really, 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 I want to have these talks. I want to be able to like have a conversation about these things. And when we do have a conversation about these things, whether it's race, whether it's women's issues, whether it's, you know, equality just amongst humanity, whether it's, you know, what we've talked about today with homelessness and poverty and just in general, whatever the conversation is, it's not being so defensive when we are asked questions, right? And everybody questions the motives, because I think a lot of these minorities and a lot of the groups that have been like marginalized over the time have been attacked. Like you can't fault them. You can't blame some of these like minorities, the like marginalized people in the world, for their responses in some ways, right? It's unfortunate, but you can't blame them necessarily, because there are just shitty human beings in this world.
Oh,
there
for
are,
sure.
right?
For sure.
Like there are people that are just would listen to the conversation that we've had just this 28 minutes into this podcast and be like, what are you talking about? You're an idiot, you know? And like they're just set in their ways and they're not going to have this conversation. The same goes for politics. The same goes for, you know, like just political figures in general. And man, I'm the first to tell you, like, I will condone something that I don't like, but I'm also not going to throw the baby out with bathwater, to use an analogy. Like, I can't just throw it all out. This is where I talked about in the beginning with my head like I'm trying to find the commonality. Like, let's see, like, okay, what are they trying to accomplish? Do I agree with what they're trying to accomplish? Yes or no? Like, whatever that might be. And I think that each one of the, you know, the extreme sides of things are all important. We have to push issues forward.
Right.
So Black Lives Matter is important. You have to push the conversation forward. You know, the women's movement, it's important. We have to push these. These are, it sounds bad to call it an extreme side of things, but there are some extremes within these conversations, right?
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, we want things to be like, we want equality. We want things to be on an even playing field. We want people to have the ability to, no one to be above another person, I think is a common thing amongst society and humanity, that we want that. And it's easier said than done. And
absolutely.
It's an ongoing conversation. But I think the more we talk about it, the more we get closer to it.
Absolutely. And talking about it is activism in and of itself. If you're willing to have these conversations, it's when you stop being available, willing to have these conversations is when like the problem will progress.
Right. Or when you say like, you don't understand my plight, you don't understand this, so we can't have this conversation.
It's like let me understand.
Yeah,
like,
you're the majority, so you can't engage in this conversation. I disagree with that. I don't agree with that. I think that it's very important for all of us to communicate and to work together, to find our commonalities and to celebrate our differences and to be advocates for one another. And knowledge is power. Understanding where the white man and the white woman with our privileges are coming from. Understanding where the race relations conversation, whether that's Black, Hispanic, Asian, name the race, like whatever you're at, like understanding what you're going through and the experiences you have had, that's important for us. That's checking our privilege and understanding, that's understanding the conversation, understanding where they've came from, the experiences that people have had, and which allows us, I think, to be gracious and be vulnerable with one another. I get it. If you are, if you're a different race than white in America, than like the white people in America, you've had a very different experience.
Absolutely.
You've had some really shitty things happen to you. You've had people say really insensitive, terrible things to you. Why would you not be pissed at me?
Right.
I get it, but I'm lumped in to that group just like you feel that I'm lumping you into a group. And that's the conversation that I really want to have with people, and I really want to understand, and I want to check my privilege with that and have those conversations.
All right, can I say something a little controversial?
Sure.
So with that said, though, like I understand that the white population is on its own level of privilege, but I also feel like it's a disadvantage to like talk about the lack of discrimination within minority populations. So like, yeah, if you group me into the white power that like doesn't want to have these conversations, like that's not fair.
Patriarchy.
Like it has to be that mix. And so it's equally as bad for for like the white privilege of America to be like, this is how these people view these things, but it's also bad for like different groups to be like, these people don't even want to have the conversation. Right. It's finding those. It's
the division that we see ourselves in society right now.
Right. It's finding the diamonds in the rough that want to actually come together and talk, not the ones who are come together and just not ready to listen. There's a huge difference between like having a conversation where you're waiting to respond and when you're actually listening. And like, I totally agree that I think the first step is having the white privileged people come up and being like, tell me your story, let me listen. And then the second step is the white people saying like, okay, this is where I'm coming from. What do you need from me? Yeah. Like,
it's just open dialogue.
Yeah, I get it. That doesn't mean like I'm necessarily right or wrong, but I just wish there was more of a, I don't know. Like, this is nice. This is refreshing. And granted, like, yeah, we're coming off a little bit of the same page with a little bit of same background, but
absolutely. Well, how do you? It's just hard because like, what forum do you have to have the conversation? Like, there isn't one that necessarily exists, right?
Yeah.
The conversations come up in the media. They come up in these different platforms, but there's not an open platform for just anyone to have the conversation. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, you know, I keep coming back to this analogy, and whether it's, I don't know, I don't love it, but it's kind of, you know, with Todd, for instance, Todd Waddington, he talked about coming out as being gay, and in the beginning his mom and his dad like weren't necessarily on board. And it's a common thing amongst the LGBTQ plus community just being misunderstood. It's the same with race in a sense of like, if you know someone of a different, if you're friends with someone, if you have a close relationship with someone of, a different sexual orientation or a different race, you instantly have more knowledge about them. And you have this like connection. Well, like, yeah, I have my friend, like, this is their experience. They've told me this, And so you can start to like blend those things together. And so maybe in some ways it's that, but it's so hard. It's not that easy either, if that makes sense, of finding, we all, I know you and I both have friends from different cultures and different backgrounds, like we kind of mentioned. And, even working with our Ugandan teammates when we were on tour, that was an experience that we were almost thrust into. But how would we have ever been in that scenario before? Like, how would we have ever, like, really... You have to be very intentional to get into those communities sometimes. It's not... We do kind of, like, segregate ourselves naturally based on race and some of those, like, sexual orientation things and those, like, different groups of people. And it's just based on interest, I think, sometimes. It's not that you're trying to, like, marginalize the people. Or at least that's from my perspective. Like, I'm not trying to, like, marginalize people, but I find that you just find the commonalities, right? Like, if you want to talk sports, I don't care what ethnicity you are, right? Like, let's talk sports. Like, let's go.
Sure.
Like, that's me. Or you just want to talk, like, clearly I have enough to talk about. So, like,
platform.
Yeah, we'll talk. And I don't have a problem. Like, it's not that I'm like, I don't go into a group of people and be like, where are the white people?
Yeah.
That's not my objective, right? And but I think that's like how the media spins things sometimes, of like segregating people. Like, I never go into that group. I find the commonalities. I find those things that are like common amongst us. And that's unfortunate sometimes. Or like, it just depends on the groups that you find yourself in. And there are different cultural things that we all find different. It's so complex. I don't know.
It is. I guess, okay, so I thought of this on like very simple level, like if you want to break it down. So I hung out with my grandparents last night, and my grandparents were telling me it was really hard to find a movie for us to watch together because they know I like old films. I'm like one of the only grandkids who will watch old films with them. Yeah. But the thing is, I always want not necessarily a strong female lead, but one who's not a bitch.
Yeah.
And so like Dr. Zhivago, it's a classic. I hate it. Because she's a homewrecker. She purposely goes in, breaks up this marriage, and you're supposed to fall in love with the love of love. And it's like, no. Like, I couldn't get past it. And same with Gone with the Wind. Like, I'm named after Katie Scarlett O'Hara, and I can't freaking stand Scarlett. She's awful. Like, and so, in the point where, like, it comes down to, like, let me try to refine my analogy but, like, my grandparents are having a hard time finding and relating these films to me because they think I only want this, like, one venue of things.
Right.
And that's not it. I just want real representation. Like, I want, so, like, we watched a movie, the movie they ended up picking out was Maverick, that stars Jodie Foster and Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
And, which also twists things because since this movie had premiered, we have found out things about Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster.
Sure.
But it still comes down to finding the common bond, what brought us together, and, like, expanding mine and their horizons. Like, I think I have found films that, like, let us have conversations, and we've led into, like, their opinion and my opinion. And then I've also brought them into awareness of, like, you can have strong female leads who don't only follow, like, these men. And so, like, the commonality, so, like, the whole point of what I'm trying to say is that, like, these conversations are there. Sometimes you just have to, like, sneak your way into them.
Yeah. Right. But I completely agree. Like, I mean, there's no... But that isn't that what we're talking about. It's like, that's exactly what we're talking about. And we just had, Women's Week that I kind of highlighted. We had 3-4 awesome, badass women on the podcast, and just we did talk about a few of those different topics in women's equality and the women's movement in some ways, and I think it's a conversation that we have to continue to have, and it has to continue to evolve. You know, like, it's just, I mean, when looking at my grandparents, for instance, and my grandma is a saint, I swear. She's gone through a lot. She deals with a lot. She still does. She's still, doing that. And I know that my grandfather and hers relationship has been very tough over time, you know. And from the simple things of when he gets home, food better be on the table. Growing up, you know. I don't agree with it, right? I don't agree with that at all. But when you look at the cultural context of things, it wasn't uncommon.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it right? Yeah. But you have to understand the history of it, of the past, I think. And so, which is probably one of the biggest arguments for why history is such a integral part of our education system in some ways, you know, of like understanding where we've came from. It's important. It
is important. I
because
agree.
Then you can learn from the past to correct those things and move forward. And I think it's interesting that you bring that up, even with like grandparents is an interesting conversation because they all come from different perspectives. My grandparents grew up in the Midwest, and rural Indiana, you know, and they have a very different lens in which they view a lot of things in the world. It makes sense when you hear their story. It makes sense when you understand where they come from. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make their viewpoints. Doesn't make their thought process in these conversations right necessarily. Right, but you understand it, and you understand maybe the trouble they have of moving past some of those conversations, and we'll be the same. I mean, technology. I complain about technology all the time.
Right.
Like, I feel dumb sometimes. I'm like, I can't keep up. Like,
no, it's true. It's all moving so fast. But I agree in the fact that like, you have to understand our past to like figure out how to move forward, because otherwise, you're having these holes. Like a really simple explanation, a really simple like idea of that is like, look at Minnesota. We literally have highways that have created redlining, and that's how you get the ghettos and like these poor areas. It's because our government literally put these things in place. So of course, like, people are going to be forced into segregation. It might not necessarily have been the people who purchased these homes' choices. Like Betty from down the street would have loved to live in a diverse community, but then they built this highway that like did it on purpose. So I mean, it's understanding. It's like, okay, like here's the gap. Right. If I understand this
is
gap,
what created it.
Then like
I can
change
it.
Exactly. Yeah. You can move forward within it.
Yeah. I think that's really important. But you can't get to change without having a conversation to bring this full circle. We have to have a conversation. And there's going to be people, this is one of my biggest fears of this podcast, is alienating and saying something that people are like, I don't agree with that. I'm not going to listen anymore. You know, or like, I can't believe he thinks that. And there are going to be people that disagree with some of the things we said today.
But isn't the point is to like open those conversations? And,
I hope so.
I feel like, based on knowing you and knowing me, it's not that we're not willing to have conversations, or like you're saying, there's people that saying like, you didn't think about this. It's like, maybe I just really didn't know. Like, I really didn't know.
We've had a very open conversation right now, and the bottom line is both you and I both are advocates for all these different groups that we've talked about.
Right, but we're speaking from our limited experience that like the world outside around us we can't necessarily control.
Exactly.
So like,
let's learn. Let's have the conversations.
Like, don't come at me, but like start a conversation.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and don't shut it down. I said this exact same thing to Timmy. You know, I hear this. You hear it just throughout society, I guess, where people go, someone tries to do something good or tries to do something that they perceive as a positive thing, and it's not taken that way, and so the attempt to do something good is shut down and condemned and like pointed at and yelled at and whatever, like a negative, spin on that. And now this person doesn't want to even venture into that, like even trying anymore. And so then they're now apathetic and they've been blocked off from even having that conversation. And now they're fearful of even having that conversation ever in general. And I think that is bad. I think that is really bad. But it's where society is in some ways, like this divisive culture that we have and this divided society. And I guess that's just to completely nail this all the way home is that, hey, if you disagree with something we've said, then tell us.
Yeah, reach out.
Shoot me a message. You've got my email. It's on all my social media stuff. Like, shoot me an email. I have a Google Voice number. Give me a call. Let's have a conversation. You can come on the podcast. We'll talk about it. Right? Like, I'm very open to having the conversation, and critique me. That's fine. But understand that I'm coming from a positive place, and I'm on your side. I'm on your side. I really am. I'm not trying to. I might be wrong, and I'll own that. I'll admit if I'm wrong, and I'll apologize, and I'll try to make amends, and I'll do my best to correct my wrongs. Don't beat me up. That's all I'm asking, honestly. Like, it's honestly a fear of mine. Like, I don't want to say something. Like, I have a lot of opinions, and I have a lot of things, and I want to ask a lot of questions, but it's hard because, I can say things that aren't accepted and culturally sensitive in some ways, but it's like the lens I'm looking through, and I'm trying to understand it. I'm trying to get to the other side so that I can be your biggest advocate, and I want to be your advocate. I want to support you. I want to support the minority. I want to support the marginalized. I want to be, that's what CrazyFaceUno is. I want to do good. I want to make a difference, and I think that having a conversation is the best way. Please don't yell at me. Please just have a conversation with me.
It's all from love. So all it should be like received and accepted from love. That's what it should come from.
Mm-hmm. See, I love talking about this stuff.
I do too. It's nice.
I just get scared, especially putting it out in public.
It is. No, absolutely. But, I mean, I'm going to toot our horn. I feel like if we can have these conversations, there has to be other people who are willing to have these conversations too. And that's where it starts. Yeah.
Reach out to me. Let's have a podcast together. Let's talk about it. And you can talk about from a different perspective so that other people can understand. So if you're listening and you want to come on to this podcast and talk about maybe whatever the issue that you think, like, reach out to me. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's talk about it.
I like that. I'll listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's important. I one of the reasons I really, and we talked about this before, I really want to balance the people that I have on the podcast. Like, I want to have strong females on the podcast, and there's a ton of badass women that I know in my life, and you're one of them.
Thanks.
I think it's really important to have those conversations. I really do. I think it's really important for anything you start to be inclusive.
Yeah.
I could have multiple conversations with my guy friends. I have lots of friends and whatever, but I have to be intentional and be like, oh, yeah, like I do need to mix it up. I need to have a lady in here every once in a while. I need to have somebody of color, of a different race in here every once in a while, and it's a thing that I'm going to continue to work on and continue to grow and to do. Like, that's really important to me. So it's something I'm continually learning and continually trying to bring. I want to have a diverse group of people in here. I don't want to just be the people that agree with me. I want to have people that disagree with me, but I want to be able to have a conversation and to like have that.
That's awesome. That's super awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I hope so. It's easier said than done sometimes, but
yeah.
I'm going to mix these up. We're going to jump ship of this conversation. We're going to
take a small break.
Yeah, we're going to take a break. So.
Ooh.
we'll take a break. But first, you have to answer this question before we take a break.
Okay. I'm ready.
Ready?
Do I pick a color or is it any question?
I'm just going to pick one myself.
Oh.
Since we were talking about ethics, we'll go ethics and intellect. Would you rather have to make your living cheating at cards in the Old West or by committing insider trading in present times?
Definitely the Old West.
Yeah.
You could totally get away with it a lot easier.
Yeah, but you also, if you get caught, you're dead.
I mean, yes, they would literally shoot you.
So you either go to jail or would you like to die, potentially?
Well, I feel like insider trading now is like, you could probably mess up more than one person's life. Yeah. Whereas like in the West, you're only going to mess up your own life.
She made it.
Exactly.
She's back.
I guess, yeah, she's a pretty good example.
She made a full recovery. All right, we're going to take a little break. We'll be right back. I'm pausing. Hey! I know it seemed like we weren't gone that long, but we're back. Oh, little LaCroix. Like we've said before in the pre-stuff, LaCroix.
Hashtag sponsor.
Sponsor us.
Us. It's not me, it's him.
Well, it's a collective group.
All right. My turn?
Oh, yeah. Back to the Would You Rather. Your turn. Oh, no. I'm so nervous. There's some, like, ones
the first one I read, but it was just really funny.
I actually had to pass on one the other day. Did you listen to Alex's podcast?
I haven't yet. Sorry, I've been bad.
No, you're fine. It was very...
This is in the pain, fear, discomfort category.
Perfect.
After a bowel movement while on a date, wipe your butt with your shirt tail or not wipe at all.
Oh, jeez.
That's so gross.
Well, either one's going to be smelly, so...
Probably.
I guess I would just not wipe my butt. Would you rather me, like... Okay. If we were on a date...
I mean, because then you see it.
Would you rather me, like, have poop on my shirt or poop in my butt area?
That's true. Like, probably. Because by the time, like, anything exciting would happen, you'd probably have another opportunity to, like...
I would hope.
Figure it out.
There was one Would You Rather. It was, like, would you rather... like run out of toilet paper in public or like in like while on a date? Like, would you rather like run out of toilet paper like in a public restroom or like while you're like at your date's house, like in their bathroom? And it's like, well, I can probably find something within their bathroom, so I'll figure something out, you know. Like, the options are a little bit more.
Yeah, that's true. You have to go through surroundings. Like, yes. What's better?
Yeah. I know. All right, let's do one more. One more each.
Okay.
I like just randomly picking them in the middle and not pulling off the top. Do you want pain, fear, discomfort, appearance, embarrassment, food, ingestion, ethics, intellect, or random?
Random.
Random. Have to kill Winnie the Pooh or Bambi?
Oh, that's awful. It's such well, probably Bambi. She doesn't have as many like intellectual good things to say. Like Pooh is just someone who like makes you feel good and he says funny things. Probably Bambi. And she's a deer. That's a natural part of life. You can't naturally kill a teddy bear.
All right, you're up. I'm up. Let's pull it. Hit me with it. Let's go.
Okay. Fear, pain, discomfort.
Oh, that's when you're going for me?
Embarrassment, food, ethnics, or random.
Your choice.
I picked the last one.
I know, but I don't care.
Let's go with appearance.
Okay.
Okay. Have a right pimple on the top of your nose, concealed with makeup, be discovered when someone's kiss accidentally pops it.
Ew.
Or have your hairpiece lift off with a sudden rush of wind. So either your date...
Hairpiece rush off with a sudden gust of wind. That's an easy one.
That's so easy.
You should just do another one on there for me, because that was too easy.
This one? Okay, because who would want their pimple to pop on another person? Yeah. That's terrifying.
Nobody's doing that.
Have to perform surgery on your spouse using only a textbook for instructions. Or defend, in this case, her, with no formal training in a trial for murder in which she appears guilty. Oh. So she murdered someone, and you have to tell them that she doesn't. Or you have
to...
She
appears guilty, it said.
Appears guilty. Or you have to perform surgery on her. What kind of surgery, though? Like, just stitches?
I don't want to be responsible.
Surgery?
It doesn't matter. I don't want to be responsible for, like, killing her.
That's true.
I'd rather be responsible for her going to jail for the rest of her life. So I'm going with that one. I think I would also, like, be a better lawyer than a surgeon, maybe.
I feel like that's true, because you could get queasy within the process and then freak out yourself.
I feel pretty... This is the thing, though. I feel more confident about my ability to perform the surgery. But if confidence is just a ploy to kill my wife. So I don't want that. Like, I would rather just try to... I'm also enjoy debating, whatever, but...
That's true. I mean, you could just play off your, like, sly debate of, like, how good am I at arguing?
Yeah.
I mean...
I'd rather take
OJ
my chance
got off.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you paid a few $1 million to his lawyer to have that happen, but... I also have these, like... These are, they're called Do It Challenge. Would you rather? They get a little,
Spicy.
Spicy is right. I haven't pulled any of these out, and I don't think today is going to be the day.
Oh, well, that was a big letdown.
I know, but I just wanted it to be
I have these, but you can't touch it.
Well, let's just pull the top one. I don't even know what it says.
I don't know. Now you made me nervous.
We're not going to do it.
Oh.
See? But I know you wouldn't do this anyway. So here it is. It says, Do It Challenge. Goal. You may, capital letters, actually perform one of the, quote, Do It challenges listed here to win this challenge. Introductions. 1. You may perform the Do It challenge listed on this challenge card. Or you may suggest a different Do It challenge that you are willing to perform and ask the group for approval. 2. If you actually perform the Do It challenge, you win this challenge. 3. If you decline or cannot perform the Do It challenge for any reason, including no consent from a second participant, then you have failed the challenge. So, this one is substantially suck a friend's toe or create your own. Right. And I know you hate feet, so that's just not even in your...
I do hate feet.
That's not even in your, like... And I'm not really I wouldn't really be looking forward to you sucking up my toe.
Why do I have to do it? You pulled it. No.
No, I didn't do that. Heck no. All right, that's a good point. Nope. I've got my... also have my little stress ball thing.
That should make you stressed. Feet are disgusting. And his are bare, for the record.
Yep. Sandals. Dropped them down there. Mm-hmm. I like just to let my feet breathe. So, Katie.
We can find out more about our gracious host.
Oh, yeah. You got questions.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear it.
Let's start with something easy. Where did you grow up?
Ooh, where did I grow up? I did move around quite a bit when I was younger, but I was born in Indiana and mostly raised there. So, born in Wabash, Indiana, the hospital there. My parents lived in Akron, Indiana, I believe, until I was 2. We moved to Buda, Illinois.
That's a place?
Look that up. Dare ya. Yeah, it's so tiny. So I lived in Butte, Illinois till I was like halfway through my first grade year of school. So like December, like spring, and we moved to Charleston, Illinois, where I lived from first grade till 6th grade. So I finished 6th grade in Charleston, Illinois, home of Eastern Illinois University, which is where Tony Romo went to college. He's an NFL football player.
Yeah, I don't know those people.
Well, fun fact for all the rest of you out there. And then 6th grade, we moved to Sullivan, Indiana, going into my 7th grade year. And I lived in Sullivan, Indiana until I graduated high school.
Nice.
In which case I moved to South Bend, Mishawaka, Indiana, and went to college there at Bethel College, formerly Bethel College, currently Bethel University, which is not associated
they upgraded.
Woo! I know. Which is not associated with any of the Minnesota Bethel's or any of the other ones in the country, but people always ask me that. And from there, I graduated college with an adolescent. I just blinked on my major. Wow. Adolescent Studies and Youth Ministry was my major.
Youth Ministry? That's interesting. Not the direction I never thought you'd be in.
Correct. Not in the direction that I'm headed, which is interesting.
I didn't know it was a major, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, liberal arts school, small.
Sure.
Conservative school. Yeah. So I went into that major. I was originally a nursing major my freshman year. And based on my academic prowess, I was going to be not getting into the nursing program for my sophomore year, which is what I needed to continue down that path. And so I was either going to be set back a year and continue the nursing program, but I had to go through a few hoops to make that happen, or I could change my major. At that point in time, I didn't feel like that was the right choice for me at the time. And so I took that summer, and I remember, I believe I read a book called The Purpose-Driven Life, and it was very inspirational to figuring out what I wanted to do, actually. It was good. It was a really good book. At the time, it was maybe what I needed, I guess. And then I was interested in counseling and youth. And that was always kind of my interest even with nursing. I wanted to, I remember in middle school, I wanted to be a pediatric oncologist. Oh. Inspired by Robin Williams and Patch Adams. Oh. Just making people laugh and smile in bad situations. And I think that kind of translates into my life now in some ways with CrazyFaceUno, and I love making people laugh and smile or whatever. But yeah, so, my parents went through a divorce when I was in college, or when I was in high school, rather. And, that time was obviously tough for me, and like it is for a lot of people, and it's an experience that a lot of youth go through, and I feel like I had the ability to potentially, kind of help people work through some of those things, and that was something I was interested in with counseling. Ultimately, I had to go get my master's or go get a furthering education, and so I didn't do that. A lot. But yeah, I didn't do that. But I got eventually. I actually didn't complete it in the same time frame as my rest of my peers in college. I took my sweet old time in finishing my last class that I needed to take, and finally got my paper written and did that part that I needed to do, and I got my degree.
But you did it.
I did it.
That's all that matters.
And I have a degree that I honestly, other than youth and the whole trend of my life of wanting to help people and whatever, not something I will be participating in or doing anything with, really.
That's pretty common.
Yeah.
Okay. Fast question. What is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie. Favorite is really hard, but I'll give you top 3.
Okay.
All right.
In order? Or just
random top 3?
They go up and down.
They could probably go up and down. Whew, man, that's really tough.
I know.
I'm going to do top 3 and then honorable mentions.
Top 5.
Okay. I think, Patch Adams, like I just mentioned, is one of my top 3, for sure. One of the most inspirational movies I've seen in my life. I also love For Love of the Game by Kevin Costner. Baseball movie. I don't know why I love that movie so much. It's kind of slow and my wife hates it, but I love it. It's great.
That's love.
She doesn't watch it with me. It's not that much love. And then... man. I used to say, I haven't watched it in a really long time. Man, there's so many good movies.
I know. You're talking to a movie buff.
I love Remember the Titans was one that I really loved.
Oh, Remember the Titans. That's a good one.
It's great. Major Payne. You seen that one? Major Payne is an awesome movie. I think we should look this up.
What's it about? You like got me intrigued by this little stress lumberjack.
Stress lumberjack. Take this off. I'm gonna pull this up and I'll play the trailer for Major Pain maybe here in a second. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days was always a favorite of mine.
You killed our lovebird. Yeah. You let it die.
You let it die.
Really?
Are you gonna let us die?
I have to say that's not something I would put on your spectrum.
Yeah, I covered a lot of different genres with that one.
That's impressive.
What are other movies I really like? I really like The Guardian with another Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher. Yeah, that one's really good. I like that a lot. I really liked Arrival with a more recent film.
I haven't seen that one yet.
It's really good.
Not living at home makes me see less movies, which is very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, my family's huge movie buffs. That's how we connect to each other. And now that, like, that's what we used to do on, when we had nothing else to do. And now I don't know. Now it's just more expensive, I guess.
It's kind of true. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, because your dad is a part of the...
My dad is the previous president, but continual board member of the Twin Cities Film Festival, which is like, I'm not gonna lie, they are up and coming. They are doing some great things. Say it one more time.
It's
the Twin Cities Film Festival.
Twin Cities Film Festival.
It happens in October. It's like, you guys are in the Twin Cities. If you're a big movie buff, I definitely suggest checking it out. They have everything from like small local Minnesota films to like blockbusters. I'm trying to think of films that have been premiered, not necessarily world premiered, but premiered at the Twin Cities Film Festival and later gone on to win Oscars, but naturally I can't think of any.
But it's really cool. I mean, I think I saw a video or one of the movies that was on. That
Room
time.
Was there. That's Brie Larson when she was kidnapped. That Room is one of those films that's
I think I went. Didn't Dana and I go with you and Mike?
You saw Room with us?
No, not that specific one, but we saw a movie during the a couple of years ago.
Probably, yeah.
I think.
Yeah. It's a great. It's at the Showplace Icon in West End, Minneapolis.
It's cool. It's really cool. It's cool that your family is like a part of that and has been a part of that. All right, so here I've got it up. The Major Pain movie trailer. We'll describe it to you listeners out there.
I've not seen this. What was he in?
He's got his own show. I mean, he's like one of the Wayne's brothers. Mm. What? I could literally quote this entire thing. It's so good.
There's like a kid wearing a skirt in the Army Brats.
Yeah. It's
also just plays to like early 90s trailers. Like,
classic.
These kids need this.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's so good.
That's cute.
Damon Wayans.
Ah, yes.
Wayans brothers.
Mm. Is he related to Wayne Brady? No, would be Brady, not Wayne. It's okay. Small dyslexic moment. That's funny.
That's so good.
I haven't seen that. That's hilarious.
Well, I have it, so if you ever want to borrow it,
sure,
let me know, because
we'll just film a video podcast of our reaction to it, eating popcorn.
So watch commentary. I think that'd be fun. I don't know how you do that. This is something I'm like, I need to learn about and understand a little bit more. Is like the censorship kind of stuff. Like, obviously, like YouTube, you didn't get to see it. I don't even know how much you heard it because it's really soft on here. Like, I know it'll come through on the podcast, but I don't know how much you got to even hear the trailer.
Bummer. You just have to listen to it on multiple platforms at the same time.
Yeah. I just don't know, like, so, like, right now, I don't have any sponsors or any of that. That's something I would love. I think that would be awesome eventually. Mm-hmm. Right, LaCroix? I'm going to have to start, like, hashtagging LaCroix on all my, like, podcasts.
It's going to happen.
But
the official sponsor of
the CrazyFaceUno Podcast. LaCroix. Drink responsibly. It's water. It's funny. That's a joke.
This week sponsored by Mango.
Yes. But yeah, like, so I just don't understand, you know, I just don't know how it works. I think if we talk over it, it's fine, I think. But, like, I know that sponsorships, there's, like,
copyright and stuff.
Yeah, and even, like, us playing this here on there, like, I don't know if that can get us in trouble, potentially. I just am not quite knowledgeable about that yet.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
To be continued.
Oh, well. I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, sure it is too.
Anyways, okay. So that's one of your favorite movies.
Yep. What else? What do you want to know?
What do I want to know?
Hit me with it.
How'd you find out? Well, okay. How'd you find out about Invisible Children?
Oh, yeah. Invisible Children. My freshman year of college. My best friend, Sam Palumbo. I'm working real hard to get that boy on here, but he,
Some best friend. JK. Hey. I'm just kidding, Sam. I know you.
Hey, you listening out there, Sam? I want you on here, man. We'll have fun. He's, one for sure, one of my best friends. And, I don't remember exactly. I know somebody had showed him the show or like the documentary, The Rough Cut, and he then brought it back to our dorm room, and it was like me and him, and I don't know if it's just me and him and like Tony. I don't know. There's a few different guys. Like, he showed it to us, and we were all like sold. We're in. And then so he was like in charge of our club for a long time, and I didn't like jump in and take charge of the club until like junior senior year when he went to Uganda actually on a study abroad trip. So he was gone for like a good while, and I kind of took over. Me and Tony kind of took over that responsibility and led that, and then the rest is kind of history. And jumped into it. We always participated in all the events and stuff and had the roadies come to our school and all that jazz. So yeah, that was how I heard about Invisible Children.
Nice. Okay, classic question. If you could have a dinner party with dead or alive people, who would you pick?
Oh my goodness sakes.
You can pick here. We'll make it. You can pick 3 people. So it'd be a group of 4.
Well, Joe Rogan. He, like, podcast-wise, he's one of the biggest inspirations. Like, podcast-wise, really makes me think, even if I don't agree with him all the time. Like, man, he's a fascinating guy, and I would love to, like, just listen, pick his brain, I guess. So he'd be one. I think, man, I would love to have, I think Martin Luther King would be fascinating to talk to as well. He's like a very influential person in the world. And then I'm going to go with a woman this time. And I feel like, man, there's a lot of different ways you could go with this one. I think, man, Michelle Obama would be really interesting.
Ah, she's so cool.
She's got a lot to talk about. I mean, just growing, like, being the first lady and the first black president and, like, their life. And, I mean, the Jada and Will Smith that family would be another one. Like, legitimately, they're now up on the top of my, like,
Yeah, they're cool.
Couple lists, like, I really respect them a lot. I don't know. That's a really tough question. What about you? What would you pick? Top 3, like, people you'd sit down with.
Ooh, top 3.
Those are just like the ones that came to my head. If I thought about this longer, I'm sure I'd have. I mean, those are great. I would be sad about sitting down with any of those people.
Definitely Katharine Hepburn. She's my favorite of all time. She's just the best. She's just awesome. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's always played strong female characters. She's like this strong person who just kind of lived her life. I mean, she like is one of the few people in old Hollywood who stood up for herself, but then also had an affair and kind of like didn't let people shit on her about it. Mm-hmm. Even though, like, when you look back at the affair with her and Kevin, what's his name? I forgot. But, like, the only reason that he didn't get divorced from his wife because he thought he was too Catholic for it, blah, blah, blah. But, like, that was, like, real love. And not that I'm saying you should go have affairs just because you're more in love with someone else. Like, you should still do the proper thing of breaking up with your person. But, I don't know. They just define the odds. So, anyways, I love her. But for more than just... And she was a humanitarian.
Yeah.
But that also kind of leads me into Audrey Hepburn. Because she has... Who are not related... But, like, she's only ever known for this, like, glamorous Hollywood. Yeah. But she's a real humanitarian. She did all these things and, like her UNICEF
one picture with her hat and, like, her cigarette.
And
that's like that's like the only image you really, like, think of. But that's the one that comes to mind whenever I think of her.
Exactly. But she, like, was this huge humanitarian. Yeah. Did so many things for people around the world.
You know who else would be really interesting? Jane Goodall.
I was just going to say her.
Yeah. She'd be fascinating. Mm-hmm. Another, like, strong woman that, like...
Yeah. And I didn't pick women on purpose. It's just those are the people I think about.
No. Well, and, I mean, I kind of wanted to pick a diverse group of people because I think that those people are really fascinating to me.
They are, absolutely.
Again, kind of to bring things... Sorry, I got, like, the hiccups or something over here.
Oh, no.
To bring things back to, like, being intentional about those things. I mean, honestly, like, who would not want to sit down and, like, listen to Martin Luther King talk and, like, tell his story? Like, he's a fascinating individual. Like, he's gone through a lot. I mean, I'd love to sit down with any president.
Almost like, any president.
I think I'd want to sit down with any of them. Like, just, I think it'd be, even if I, like, you know.
Ooh, Hamilton. No, I take it back. Lin-Manuel Miranda. That's who I want to hang out with. He is the jam.
Lincoln would be awesome. He's a wrestler. He, like, you know, old school. I lived in Illinois. I toured, like, Lincoln's little state park thing they've got. Deal. I don't know. I mean, there's, like, a ton of, like, any president, but, I mean, Michelle Obama's definitely lived a very interesting life, and their story is very interesting and very, like, unique to a lot of people, and the Obamas in general. I think just to talk to them about their marriage, talk to them about, like, raising kids in the White House, or, like, her responsibilities and, like, her leadership and, like, her role as First Lady. Like, man, she's fascinating.
Oh, for sure.
You're a big movie, you know, buff person and someone like that, and I don't necessarily have those people. Rogan, just influential. Robin Williams would be amazing. I'd love to sit down with Robin Williams and talk to him.
My parents met him in an elevator.
Would be one of... Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so cool. Anthony Bourdain would be another one that I would, like, love to sit down with. It would be fascinating to sit down with. Man, I don't know. I would love to just sit down with everybody. All of them. Yeah, I don't know. So those would be your 3?
I think so. Also, like, Ellen DeGeneres would be cool.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, of course. Ellen would be so fun.
I'm not going to lie, I would use Ellen for some of the connections. I'd be like, can you get me to talk to this person?
Yeah. Or Oprah. Like, Oprah would be fun.
Oprah. I don't know. Maybe Oprah, like, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I guess I haven't really listened to some of her stuff now. But
I mean, I just feel like Oprah has become more than who she was. And so I feel like some of her...
Really? You think so?
I feel like I'm being naive and I'm sure big Oprah fans are going to be like, what the hell, Katie? But just, like, I feel like when she went away from...
Oprah now.
I feel like when she went away from her talk show, like, just being who she was at the time was so influential, and she, like, got people to talk about things. And after her talk show, I feel like she's just kind of riding the wave. Which is fine. She deserves it.
It's like passion projects.
Yeah, and granted, I have no idea what she's actually working on. She could be freaking solving world hunger for all I know. But, so, like, I don't know enough about her, but from
she has,
the
like,
little
her
I do know.
Like, she has her own podcast, she has her own, like, stuff like that.
She has a magazine, she has a network.
Yeah.
I know she's doing a lot. I think I'd rather talk to the Oprah 10 years ago.
Sure. Yeah. Kind of like the Ellen today. Like, I feel like Ellen kind of took her place.
Oh, absolutely. But, yeah, Lynn for sure. Okay. Same vein. Whose talk show would you be on? They could be old or new hosts.
Does Joe Rogan's podcast count? Because it's also a show, like, on YouTube and stuff, too.
Since we already kind of know you're going down that vein, let's go with, like, has to be on TV.
I mean, then it's got to be Ellen. I don't know who else that would be. The late night people, like, they're funny. They're fine. I think, I would probably go Noah, what's his last name?
Starts with a J.
Yeah, Noah...
Trevor.
Trevor. Not T. Not a J. T.
Right.
No, Trevor. He'd probably be my second pick, but I think Ellen would probably be number one for sure.
I was gonna say James Corden. I feel like he'd be so fun.
Oh, he would be fun too, though.
Like, I want to be a part of carpool karaoke. Yeah. Like, can I just sit in the trunk?
That show is brilliant. Like,
it's so smart.
Karaoke what is it?
Carpool karaoke.
Carpool karaoke. That's so, like, that was such a smart thing. I love that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, do you have things that are like your almost like guilty pleasures of like listening to or watching? For instance, mine are like Facebook videos would be, they always come up, or like the America Has Talent. yes. And all of those, like, but they just have the clips of like the good ones and stuff.
Like all the golden buzzers. I freaking love them.
It's so good.
They make me cry sometimes.
I know, all the time. I cry all the time.
They're so good and they've come from nothing.
I know.
No, it's fantastic.
I even watched one the other day. It was like the ones that made like Simon cry.
Yes.
So good.
Oh, Simon.
Yeah, it was so good.
Ooh, do you know who else would be cool to sit down with? Lauren Michaels, the creator of SNL.
Oh, I see. I don't
that
know
would
anything
be
about
fascinating.
Her. Yeah.
Lauren's a boy. Male.
See, I don't know. I don't even know.
Yeah, like, how did you come up with it? How do you pick these people? What do you think when they become bigger than you?
Yeah, that's true.
Lauren Michaels would be fascinating. I've been to an SNL taping.
Have you?
I have.
That's cool. How was that? Who was on it?
Amazing. The host was Seth Rogen, and Taylor Swift sat you to me away.
Nice.
I could have touched her.
Not to pull away from this conversation, did you see the letter that Taylor wrote?
Yes.
The other day?
About Scooter?
Yeah.
I
just read that last night.
Mike and I had she just posted it like yesterday. Mike and I had a big discussion about it because we were kind of on opposite sides.
Really?
I see
the business side of things. I kind of see, but like it's the bullying part of things that I like.
I see both. So
I want to read it. Can we read it? It's not. Keep talking. And I'm gonna find it.
It's not necessarily. Okay, so for those who aren't going to do the whole thing, so because only Taylor's is one-sided. Essentially, when Taylor was young, she fell into a deal that didn't let her own music, which I allude to the Beatles. The Beatles didn't own their own music. And then whoever owns her music decided to sell it, and they sold it to Scooter Braun. He's like Ariana Grande's, Demi Lovato's, and Justin Bieber's manager. Yeah. The problem is that Scooter bought it, but no one gave Taylor the opportunity to purchase it.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the problem. So Taylor, like, I'm with Taylor the fact that you deserve to own your own work. And I think it's super shady that the person who sold it Scott, his name's Scott, didn't offer Taylor it. But it's also shady that Scooter didn't offer Taylor it either.
Yeah.
But now Taylor posted this without talking to anyone first, and so naturally people are the Taylor fans of the world are attacking Scooter, are essentially bullying Scooter. So now Demi Lovato and Justin Bieber are like coming to Scooter's defense, but Bieber also posted something about like it's like Scooter, Kanye, and Bieber are all hanging out or FaceTiming together, and he said, "What up, Taylor?" So he like fueled the fire.
And she calls it bullying, which there is an element of that for sure.
There is.
I think it's like a little jacked up. That's for sure.
I'm not gonna lie. I think Taylor's being a little dramatic. I don't think she should call her fans out to like fight her battle, but it's completely wrong that like she doesn't own her own music.
Yeah, well,
that's like when Michael Jackson stole the Beatles' music when Paul and Ringo are still alive. Yeah, so the Beatles didn't own their music,
which is just an interesting business thing, right?
But it's
go on.
Like that's what happened when like back in the day that wasn't a thing, creative.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when the Beatles music went on sale, that's why it wasn't on Spotify forever, is because the Beatles wouldn't let it. The music was released. Michael Jackson outbid Paul McCartney, which you should have just basically given it to Paul McCartney because he practically wrote everything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Michael Jackson died that some of it came back to Paul. But that's why you see Beatles music on things, because the Beatles don't own it, which is so sad to me.
Yeah. All right, so here's the letter. It says, for years I pleaded for a chance to own my own work. To own my work. Instead, I was given an opportunity to sign back up to Big Machine Records and earn one album back at a time. One for every new album, like new one I turned in. I walked away because I knew once I signed that contract, Scott Borchetta would sell the label, thereby selling me and my future. I had to make the excruciating choice to leave behind my past. Music I wrote on my bedroom floor and videos I dreamed up and paid for from the money I earned playing in bars, then clubs, then arenas, then stadiums. Some fun facts about today's news. I learned about Scooter Braun's purchase of my master's as it was announced to the world. All I could think about was the incessant, manipulative bullying I've received at his hands for years. Like when Kim Kardashian orchestrated an illegally recorded snippet of a phone call to be leaked, and then Scooter got his two clients together to bully me online about it. See photo, which is what you were just talking about.
The Justin Bieber and Kanye one.
Or when his client, Kanye West, organized a revenge porn video which strips my body naked. Now Scooter has stripped me of my life's work that I wasn't given an opportunity to buy. Essentially, my musical legacy is about to lie in the hands of someone who tried to dismantle it. This is my worst case scenario. This is what happens when you sign a deal at 15 to someone for whom the term loyalty is clearly just a constructual concept. And when that man says music has value, in quotes, he means its value is beholden to men who had no part in creating it. When I left my masters in Scott's hands, I made peace with the fact that eventually he would sell them. Never in my worst nightmare did I imagine the buyer would be Scooter. Anytime Scott Borchetta has heard the words Scooter Braun escape my lips, it is when I was either crying or trying not to. He knew what he was doing. They both did. Controlling a woman who didn't want to be associated with them in perpetuity, that means forever. Thankfully, I am now signed to a label that believes I should own anything I create. Thankfully, I left my past in Scott's hands and not my future. And hopefully, young artists or kids with musical dreams will read this and learn about how to better protect themselves in a negotiation. You deserve to own the art you make. I will always be proud of my past work, but for a healthier option, Lover will be out August 23rd. Sad and grossed out.
Her new album.
Taylor. I don't know. For me, like, I don't think that that's treated properly. I mean, it sounds like she wasn't even given an option to buy it, and I think that's where the issue comes into play. Like, if you're gonna sell it, well and good, right? It's not like she's lacking in money, and I'm sure she would have sold her left arm in order to do that. Or if they're trying to run the price up and she didn't want to do that, like, then that's the repercussions you get. But to not have the option, I think is sad.
I totally agree. That's, yeah. And so, I mean, yeah, maybe it's wrong that she called out social media instead of, like, having conversations with the people involved. But granted, we don't know the difference.
But they wouldn't have the conversation with her either. It's not that two wrongs make a right, but it's complicated.
Right, absolutely.
We're reaching our end.
Yeah.
We're going to end on that one right there. Taylor Swift, we're sorry. We love you. Keep rocking. Keep kicking ass. And for this lady here, Miss Katie Zeuli.
It's been great.
Thanks again for coming. Appreciate you. Love you, girl. To all you guys out there, follow CrazyFaceUno.com. Go to the Facebook page, go to Twitter, go to all those different social media sites. YouTube. We'll be with you in just a second.
Do it!
Bonus material on YouTube. Check it out. All right. Peace!